There's one simple principle that will help you achieve success so much faster. And I will also share 5 important lessons related to this principle. If you want to make more progress in life, you always want to choose courage over knowledge. You don't need more courses, more books and information to succeed. What most people need is more courage. And when I was younger, in my teenage years, I did an internship at a gym. And in my second week, my trainer came to me and he asked me if I wanted to do one of his songs for his classes. And this is an aquafit class where you stand on the side of the pool dancing in front of 20, 30 people. And in that moment, I told him no. I said to him, give me 2 weeks and I'll do your whole class. And bear in mind that back then I was extremely introverted and socially awkward. I didn't know how to look people in the eyes. I've never done a fitness class before. I haven't even participated in one because I was too afraid being around people. I couldn't even do a presentation without shaking. But in that moment, I chose courage because I wanted to master the skill of being comfortable in front of a group of people. And in these 2 weeks, I prepared as if my life depended on it. I did the class, which wasn't perfect at all, but I learned so many important lessons from this, from choosing courage over knowledge. And one of them is that one experience will teach you so much more than any book will. I could have prepared for this fitness class by reading books, by taking courses, by talking to instructors, by participating in classes to get comfortable with the atmosphere. That was one way of approaching it. And when I finally felt ready, I could do a song of a class. But I chose to commit to doing the full class at once. And that one experience taught me more than any book will. And this principle applies to any area of your life. We think that when we acquire more knowledge, that we will make a right decision, that we will take perfect action, that we will make faster progress. But this is actually a lie because you're not making any improvements at all. An experience will teach you far more. When you take imperfect action, when you make mistakes, that's when you actually start learning. Because if we take, for example, the handstand, this is a move that I mastered and I'm currently training for, the one-arm handstand. So I can give you every single nuance in the whole process of learning the handstand. But when you do your first training and when you try to do your first handstand, you will forget 99% of the things in the whole process because you're so focused on that first step and what you're experiencing in that moment and the problem that you're solving in that moment. And that's where I also think acquiring knowledge is actually wasting your time because you actually start learning when you start applying the knowledge and when you start experiencing it. That's when you really learn all the beautiful nuances related to your unique process. So that's why it's important to choose courage over knowledge. And another lesson that I learned when it comes to this principle is the failure in your mind is far worse than the actual failure, the failure you experience in reality. So the thing that holds people back from taking action is the fear of failure. But you're actually not afraid of failure. You're afraid that other people will see the failure and that they will see your mistakes and all the stories you create around that. So if we take the fitness class as an example again, this was not a private failure. This was a public one. I was publicly making mistakes. And what makes it worse is that all the members that were there, they saw me on a weekly basis. And after I was done with the class, they all gave me feedback. And my trainer gave me feedback as well. And maybe you've received feedback before for a presentation. And that stinks when you receive feedback like that. But it was uncomfortable for 15 minutes at most. And that's when I got over it and moved on. And I improved my skills, of course, and my classes. So that failure was only 15 minutes of an uncomfortable feeling. But your mind starts playing tricks on you when it comes to the topic of failure, because it creates failure as this huge beast. When you make a mistake, people will start laughing at you. Maybe you get abandoned. When you embarrass yourself, they will start making fun of you. And all the big things that start happening. And you overthink the fear to prevent it from happening. But the contradicting thing is, by thinking so much about the worst case scenarios, you're actually experiencing the worst case scenario. And not just for a small moment, you experience it on a consistent basis, daily, weekly, And for a lot of people, even monthly. So the thing that you're actually trying to prevent from happening is something you're experiencing on a monthly basis often. And this is something you really want to connect to. Because when you realize that the fear in your mind is so much worse than the actual fear, because the actual fear of failure, the actual failure is just a small moment of uncomfortable feelings. When you connect to that truth, you want to run towards the failure as fast as possible, because you know the suffering in your mind is way worse than that actual moment. When it comes to the topic of fear, in this whole process of achieving success, whatever that may mean to you, there's supposed to be fear. There is no courage in the absence of fear. And this is also what makes the whole process beautiful. But just know and connect to the truth of the failure in real life isn't that bad. And the failure you create in your mind is where the real suffering happens. And that's why you want to get emotion as fast as possible and not stay passive. Because when you stay passive, that's when you start suffering more and more and more. And emotion you will learn. A third lesson that I wanted to share with you as well is don't solve problems that aren't there yet. And this is what the over-planning and overthinking does, because you want to prepare for all the problems that will come your way. So you are aware of the problems that might happen in the future and you already start solving them, but you're not even experiencing them in this moment. And I recently talked to a starting coach, and he shared with me the problems he was experiencing around trying to sell his coaching services to a prospect. And when I challenged him to get specific on this, like who's the person you're talking to? What is the actual conversation like? What happened in this conversation? What is the actual problem that you're experiencing with the prospect that you're talking to? That's when I found out that he wasn't even talking to someone. He wasn't even talking to anyone about his coaching services in general. But he was already trying to solve problem number 10 while he was still stuck at step number 1. And this is where you don't want to be solving problems that aren't even there yet, because you don't even know if they might happen. You want to solve the problem that's right in front of you. And when you solve the problem, you will face a different problem. And then you want to start solving that one. Because otherwise you're stuck in one place, not making any progress, and you're just solving problems in your imagination. Nothing is happening. And I'm not saying that preparation is bad. Some people need to prepare more for the things that are coming. But if you're lacking progress, if you have trouble taking action, if you see yourself going down the rabbit hole of constantly acquiring knowledge, then you don't need more overthinking and overplanning. You need more courage. So only solve the problem that's right in front of you, because that's where the real progress is at. And the fourth thing around this principle and the fourth lesson is knowledge is fake productivity. I used to consume an insane amount of information. And when I was reading all these books and watching these videos on YouTube and listening to these podcasts, I felt so productive. But you want to ask yourself the question, am I actually being productive by acquiring all this information? Because feeling productive is something different than being productive. The amount of books that you read doesn't make you more successful. Acquiring all this information, is this actually you making progress? Is this actual productivity? Because productivity is something you can measure. You can measure it in the output. And are you creating a significant amount of progress towards your most important goals? Are you increasing your income? Are you gaining more muscle? Are you going on dates that you didn't go on before? Are you creating videos and posting them? Are you increasing your subscriber count on YouTube? Whatever your goal is acquiring knowledge actually achieving this for you? And in most cases, it's not. And this is a tough pill to swallow. This is a hard reality you want to come to terms with, because most people, they overconsume and they acquire all this information because they're afraid. They're afraid to take action. And they just cover up this fear actually with acquiring information because it makes them feel good. And it's this fake kind of productivity. And the only way to change this is come to terms with the reality that you're afraid of taking action. This is your starting point. And you don't want to back away from it. You want to look at it. You want to face it. That's courageous. That's you showing courage. Because when you come to terms with the current reality that you're experiencing, only then you're able to move forward in alignment. Only then you're able to make a powerful decision. And only then you're able to show courage. Otherwise, you're just putting up this performance of fake productivity and you're avoiding the real issue that you're experiencing. And that's taking responsibility for your situation. So acquiring knowledge is actually fake productivity. Being in motion and showing courage, that's where the actual productivity is at. What are you producing? And the last thing that I want to share with you around this principle of choosing courage over knowledge is that acquiring more knowledge actually creates paralysis. Knowledge overload creates paralysis because you bring so much information into your awareness. So you're aware of everything that needs to happen to achieve a certain goal. And you see all the things that you need to do and it becomes overwhelming. So you don't even want to take action in the first place. And on the other side, you also become aware of all the problems that you might face in the process and how difficult and hard the process is going to be. So you don't even want to take action in the first place. So actually acquiring more knowledge creates the opposite effect of the thing that you actually want to be achieving, which is action, which is motion, which is progress. So don't fall into the trap of acquiring more and more and more and more knowledge. I also want to redefine what acquiring knowledge actually means, because the way I redefine it in my life is it's gaining knowledge through experience. To me, that's real knowledge. That's real wisdom. If I read something in a book, that doesn't mean I have knowledge. If I apply that knowledge and I create my own unique experience around it, that's real knowledge. That's real wisdom. And the thing that I see online so much is there are so many people out there that are explaining things from a place of intellectual knowledge, but they're not explaining it and sharing it from a place of experiential knowledge. And that's where you want to be at, experiential knowing. This is the experience and the knowledge you want to be cultivating. And you only do this by showing courage. Apply the knowledge that you acquired. And only try seeking knowledge when it solves a specific problem that you're experiencing. And consistently showing courage by yourself is pretty difficult. It's pretty challenging. And this is one of the reasons why I also created a men's group, a community where men from all over the world come together. And we hop on weekly group coaching calls where we create together, where we challenge each other, where we're open, vulnerable, where we create these real, deep, raw connections with each other. Because when you're in a brotherhood like this, when you're creating with brothers alongside you, it's far easier to be courageous because you always have a place to fall back on. The real hard things that I experienced in life is the moment I showed courage, the moment I went for something and I failed, I felt flat on my face and I have no place to fall back on. These are tough challenges to face. And this also makes it scarier to show courage on a consistent basis. But if you have a community that supports you, that holds you accountable, that pushes you, that you can fall back on, you can show up more courageous consistently. And again, you will make progress so much faster. So if you want to try out this community for free, you can fill out the application form in the description below and we'll just hop on a call. We'll connect. You can try out the community and feel if this is in alignment for you. Because I believe the real cheat code to life is connections. If you want to get ahead faster, definitely show courage. But the real cheat code is connections. The moments I create the most transformation in my life was the moment I got in touch with the right people. When certain individuals shared something with me, pushed me, made me see life in a different light and in a different perspective. That was the moment I created most progress in my life. So most often you're only one connection away from completely changing your life. And what if that connection is right in the community? What if that connection is on the group calls with us? So I invite you to just try it out for free. I hope this video was helpful and I'll see you in the next one.